slaves were just in prettier cages.
Oh, Megan. We're only getting started.
I'm Jeremy Johnson. Our main stories tonight.
Daddy, it's starting!
It's all in the Bible. Look, Leviticus.
Hi, David, I have a call for you. I'm just putting it through. All right, mate. Dave here. Listen, I know you've only come in to clean up the place, but I've got a bit caught up, so you're going to have to run the news tonight. Now, don't worry. It's not hard, and I'm going to stay on the phone and help you. First, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the broadcast room, so if you're not doing it already, look forwards towards all those screens. Right, look up at the top. That coloured bar is your audience. You want to keep the viewers going up and not down. Underneath that, you've got the screens. The one on the right is the broadcast screen. That's what the viewers are seeing at home. It's only a couple of seconds behind the master screen there in the middle. That's the one you control. Now, the four small screens on the left show the different signals coming from the studio, and you can choose between them using the numbered buttons on the vision mixer at the bottom left. Don't worry, I'll talk you through it and you'll pick it up in no time. Now, have a look to your left. These plugs control everything in the studio. I've left them set up for you, so provided you haven't fiddled with them, all you have to do now is throw the master trip switch and we're in business. Once you've got the power on, face the front again. You can see on the broadcast screen that we're in the end titles for the show before us. Fortunately, they go on for fucking ages, so there's plenty of time for me to explain. Oh, right, okay, they're over, so we haven't got long now till the broadcast. Right, quickly, mate, look down under the desk. You can see a load of videotapes on the left. They're your adverts. Pick any three and load them into the machines on the right. When you've done that, look up to the front again.
Take on 4 old ladies from East Finchley. That's followed at 8 p.m. by award-winning documentary series The Shape of Now, which tonight looks at the history of the knee-length sock and its importance during the Great Blackouts of 1871. Not one to miss. At 9 p.m, sit back and relax with multiple award-winning movie The Freedom of Being Colin.
When you get the signal, select screen 1 with the vision mixer and we're ready to go.
You know seafood makes me go out in pustules.
Yeah, I thought it might increase our viewing figures.
Every day. You offer me prawns every day.
10 seconds, everybody. That's how I show love.
You're trying to kill me.
And yet you persist. Going 5, 4.
But now, it's time to join Jeremy Donaldson.
Good evening, I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Our main stories tonight.
Okay,
Moving on
we're
up.
all good.
The election
Next
win
is
that
going to be the
Esther
throw to
said
the news
just pretty
titles
happy.
on screen 2.
Hopeful or
There'll be a countdown, but I'll count you in as well. Just relax, mate. It's all gravy.
Buys Honest Andy's Totally Independent and corners the flowered market. Top chat. Sports fans everywhere celebrate as popular footballer Johnny Hamsley wins Sports Personality of the Year. And a spoonful of sugar. Chatting with movie star Lawrence Blunderclatch about his new movie, The Medicated. And, of course, we'll be going live to Advance headquarters to hear what the leaders of this fledgling party have to say on their historic...
Right, button
That's
2
all
a bit early there, mate.
National Night News.
Next thing is to throw back to Jeremy with button 1 when that globe in the middle shrinks down and vanishes. Switch to screen 1. Lovely, mate.
But first, the votes are in and it's a decisive win for Advance. The landslide...
Listen, mate, we often get a bit of interference around this time of night, so keep your eye on the machine on the bottom right. You can move that white dot up and down, avoiding the interference using the yellow knob or your scroll wheel.
Of a severe lack of actual policies and of being deliberately vague. The opposition parties have all conceded defeat to Advance's overwhelming mandate but have yet to appear publicly.
Great, it's going well. All you've got to do now is play the advert at the end of the segment. Make sure you don't play it too early or we'll all get fired. Now the clock at the top is counting you down to the advert. When it reaches 0, press one of the 3 play ad buttons over there at the bottom right. I normally play the first one at the first break and so on, but you can play them in any order you want. I'll count you into it as well, but keep your eye on the clock.
We'll be going live to Advance HQ to hear the co-leader's acceptance speech.
And 3,
That's all
2,
coming up.
1, advert.
1 minute back,
Play the
everybody.
fucking ad, mate.
I need you to fill after the ads.
What? Why?
Wanker Snatch is running late.
Oh,
I thought I'd ask him about the election.
personally, I wouldn't try to confuse him with any big words.
That's the same policy we use with you.
I thought that was our little secret.
He doesn't remember anything I tell him.
I'm deeply uncomfortable with your burgeoning friendship. Yeah.
Wicked. We made it to the first ad break. You're doing great, mate. But this is where it starts getting a bit trickier. This next sequence is what we call a multicam sequence, because you're going to be cutting between multiple cameras to keep things interesting. A lot of it's down to personal taste, but here's 3 good rules of thumb. 1. Try and keep the shot on whoever is doing the talking. 2. Don't stay on the same shot for too long. 10 seconds at the most. So if you're on the person who's talking, try and throw in the odd reaction shot or pull out to the wide shot for a bit just to keep it interesting. 3. Don't stay on reaction shots for too long. A couple of seconds is usually enough. Then the audience want to see who's doing the talking, yeah? Stick to these rules and you'll be fine. It's not as complicated as it sounds. You've seen programs on television, haven't you? Make it look like those. Might as well get screen 1 selected now. No need to wait for the broadcast to start. Try and stay ahead, mate.
We're coming back from the break. Quiet in the studio.
Thank you so much.
10 seconds, everybody. Going in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to the National Nightly News. Later, we'll be hearing from shock election winners Advance. But first
Get
off,
ready to go to
local
Megan on
reporter
screen
Megan
4.
Wolf is here with a star of both stage and screen. Megan?
Thank you, Jeremy. Megan Wolf, culture correspondent. And today I have a guest who starred in everything from Shakespeare
Right,
to
go
the
to
shop
Blunderclatch
films.
on screen 3 when she says his name.
By none other than Lawrence Blunderclatch. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my dear.
Go to 3, go to 3.
That being with you here today is among
Switch to 2 for the wide now.
May I say, having you here with us is among ours.
Right, now just try and stay on whoever's talking.
The latest movie, which is called The Medicated.
The Medicated, yes.
Wow, what was that like?
Well, and
What was that like?
Peter the Rat. That's Peter Jensen, the director. Do you know him? He's a wonderful chap. He really is. I've worked with him on several
Give us a
movies.
look at Megan's reaction.
I said to Peter,
No? All right then.
what a wild ride this has been. And you know what, Megan? I really meant that.
Wow, that is fantastic. And am I right in saying that the character you play in this movie is quite an academic one?
Absolutely right. A scientist.
Was that a challenge at all?
What exactly are you implying? But seriously, yes, you're right. It was a complete departure from my last starring role when I played Sergeant Brock Rockman in Bullet Man. You'll remember that that was the true story of one soldier's fight for a love that surpasses all others. A love, of course, for freedom. I think it's grossed over $1 billion, but honestly, who's counting?
It's a role that saw you scoop 2 Best Actor awards, if I remember correctly.
It's so sweet of you to mention it, but I really am not in it for the awards, although those 3 little statues do take pride of place on my mantelpiece.
With all the others, I'm sure. So, if you're not doing it for the awards, what is it then that drives you?
That's a beautiful question, Megan, and not easy to answer. Like you, I'm afraid. Cut me, and I will bleed. And often, that's how it feels, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Bleeding, giving, suffering for one's audience. I suppose in the end, I do it for the difference it makes. I do it for the people that I inspire. The little people. But most of all, I think I do it for the positive change that I can bring about in the world.
And today, of course, we're in for some real change, it looks like, in the coming few months. What do you make of this historic election result?
Oh, well. Well, now you're asking. Historic election result. Indeed. Historic is the word. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. But I think I've always been quite clear that when it comes to politics, one should always strive to not fuck things up.
Shit, he swore. Oh, well, don't worry, he won't do it again.
Sorry, I said fuck.
Shit, he did it again. Okay, don't panic. I'll explain how to deal with swearing at the break.
Medicated, which opens next week.
Right, they've swapped the shot of Jeremy on screen 1 for a VT of the movie clip. You'll get a countdown on the screen, but I'll just let Megan cue you in.
My character, Dr. Lance Hemlock, is faced with a decision that could affect humanity's very survival.
Exciting stuff. Let's take a look. Exciting stuff.
And we're out.
Go to the film clip, screen 1.
Mr. Blundercatch.
No!
Watch out for that interference, mate.
Mr. Blundercatch, I understand you're upset, but
God, looks like Blunderclatch is losing it in the studio. I'd love to hear what he's saying, but don't switch to it now. You can go to the archive when the broadcast starts. We keep everything.
I don't know that.
No, we mustn't.
Dr. Lance to you, Miss Flanagan.
Did it for you, baby. All for you.
Dr. Hemlock.
I'm gonna change the world, you know? Go on then, listen to you.
Dr. Hemlock.
You told me, but I didn't listen.
Doctor.
I'm drowning, Lance, you said.
You need to see this.
No, it's all too late.
Look at this!
The virus. The sterility. This formula. This is the key.
Stop it all.
At the end of the clip, you'll want to play another ad. Remember to use the clock at the top to count you in.
If we should.
Right, I guess I better explain how to deal with bleeping out swear words. As you've probably noticed, the broadcast screen, here, is about 2 seconds behind the master screen, here. When someone says a naughty word, the bleep button lights up, like this. 2 seconds later, you'll hear that swear word going out on the broadcast, and you need to hold down the bleep button or the spacebar on your keyboard for as long as the swear word lasts. It can take a bit of practice getting used to hearing 2 things at once. Just stay calm and you'll get it. And if you can't tell when to bleep, just above the button, you'll literally be able to see the sound scrolling by. All you gotta do is hold it down while the red bit is over the red line. Simple. Of course, if you do it by eye, you'll have to take your eye off the screens. That's why real professionals do it by ear. Most people like to have the volume of the broadcast screen a little bit below the master screen. Let's set it now.
These potentially true statistics are all
As you turn it up, you'll hear the advert getting louder. Good. You're set to start censoring. Like I say, it takes a little practice, but I'll try and help you through it, and soon we'll have you bleeping like a pro. Remember, button lights up, count 1, 2, and hold it down. Remember to select screen 1 now that you've got the feed. Don't wait for the broadcast to go live. That's too late. You can use the number buttons on your keyboard, 1 to 4.
Seriously, that was
5, 4, 3.
Welcome back. And I'm told we can now go live to advance headquarters. And I'm told we can now go live to advance headquarters. Peter Clement and Julia Salisbury are about to make their acceptance address.
Cut to the outside broadcast.
All for it, Pat. Shall I start?
Get ready to
All
bleep.
for it, Pat. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for coming. Where do I start? What? Where do I start?
They said we couldn't do it.
They said we couldn't do it.
Every dirty, low-down, lying, southern bastard trick they had against southern bastards.
I've only got a bit of word.
Right through there,
I'm sorry about the language there.
Sorry about
the
that. I've had a
language.
couple of celebrations. Sorry about that. I've had a couple of celebrations.
Course of the Negroni is funny.
Course of the...
Memorably put.
Memorably put.
But to be honest, who can blame Peter for celebrating?
But to be honest,
who can blame Peter
Throughout the
for
campaign,
celebrating?
you've heard us say that
Throughout
advance
the
are
campaign,
not
you've
a
heard us
political
say that
party.
advance are not a
That is what you
political
have
party.
when things are going well.
That is what you have when
the
things are
country
going
is
well.
suffering. You don't need a party.
When the country is suffering,
You
you don't need a
team.
party. A team that can change things. A team that can change.
But today
things.
is day one of a new
But today
future.
is day one
A better,
of a new future.
fairer future.
A better,
So
fairer
perhaps we should all be
future.
celebrating.
Except
So
for the
perhaps we should all be
rich.
celebrating.
For them the
Except
party's
for the
over.
rich.
They shouldn't
For
be
them the
celebrating.
party's over. They
should be putting
celebrating.
their shitting pants on and opening their dusty checkbook. On and
Again,
opening their dusty
colourfully
checkbook.
put, but
Again,
not
colourfully
inaccurate, but not
Before we
inaccurate.
came out here to address the nation,
Before we
used
came
our
out here to
executive
address the
powers
nation, we used
to pass
our
the
executive
Assets and
powers
Wealth Act.
to pass the
Working with
Assets and
the
Wealth
Tax
Office,
Office,
we have produced a
working with the
definitive
Tax
list
Office,
of
we have
every
produced
person in
a
the country
definitive
with
list
wealth
of
into the
every
millions.
person in the
You
country with
know
wealth
the
into the
sort.
millions.
Probably you rather you don't. Because the
you-
likes
you
of
rather
you
you
and
don't.
me are
Because
not
the likes
welcome
of
in
you
their
and
gated
me
communities.
are not welcome in their
Tomorrow
gated
we will be
communities.
introducing a sweeping
Tomorrow
reform
we
of
will
the
be
tax
introducing
system in
a
this
sweeping
country.
reform of the tax
No more
system in
hiding
this
wealth
country.
offshore,
No more hiding
trust
wealth
funds or
offshore,
creative
no more
accounting,
trust funds
a
or
simpler,
creative accounting,
fairer,
unavoidable set of tax laws, unavoidable
all
set
you
of
bastard
tax laws.
public school snobs have got nowhere to hide. I've got nowhere to hide. We revoked your passport. We revoked your passport. You want to leave like you threatened before the election. That's fine. Before the election. That's fine. You're gonna pay first. You're gonna pay up.
Advance are going to turn this country from a nation of warring individuals, from a nation of warring individuals, to properly fund health and education, to properly fund
To raise
health
the
and
living
education
standards of us
to
all.
raise the
The
living
pundits
standards of us
said we'd
all.
have to raise billions. We'd have to raise
You'll see when
billions.
we've reclaimed
But
what's
you'll see
ours,
when we've
that's
reclaimed
absolute
what's ours.
ferret
That's
shite.
absolute. So to
Ferret
you posh twats,
The
so
people
to
who pay you a
posh
pittance to serve them
People
drinks
who
in their
pay you a
private
pittance
clubs,
to serve them
the people
drinks in
whose
their
children
private clubs,
you
the
raised,
people
So
whose
they've got
children
time to
you
get even.
raised.
So they've got time to get
Advance
even.
have this to say to
richer.
you. Advance have
ends
this to say
today.
to you. We
It
are
ends
coming for your
today.
sports cars
We
and your
are coming
mansions
for your
and your
sports
vineyards
cars and
your
your
mansions
vineyards.
and your
Today.
vineyards.
It
We will
ends
put the wealth
today.
of this country back
We
where
will
it should
put
have
the wealth
always
of this
been.
country back
in the
where it should have
hands of the
always
people
been.
who created it. In the hands of the
ends
people who created it.
Today. It ends.
Yes. It
Today.
ends today.
Yes.
It ends
And tomorrow,
today. We'll start making
And
it fair
tomorrow,
again. We'll start
just
making it
like
fair
we
again.
promised we would.
Just
And until
like we
then,
promised
ladies
we
and
would.
gents, and until then, ladies and
suggest
gents,
we all get pissed.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. Thank you for your time.
Well, interesting acceptance speech there. Interesting acceptance speech there. And our apologies for the fruity language. And our apologies for the fact that we doubt you in time. If not, someone's going to be in trouble. So, as the country braces itself for new government, as the country that's all from us this evening at the National Nightly That's all from us this evening. We'll be back tomorrow with full coverage. We'll be back first day under with full coverage of the first day. I'm Jeremy Donson. Have a peaceful. I'm Jeremy Donson. Have a peace.
Right, looks like you've got it now. Thanks for all the help, mate. I've got to go. Ferry's about to leave. Probably won't be coming back. Job's yours, mate. Good luck.
With this exquisite limited edition collection, My Salad
dying
Wiki.
now.
Sign up now, and every week we'll send you
I'll see you tomorrow night.
You're not coming for a
ethically sourced
drink?
No,
ingredient
got
to
to
add to your salad.
Try not to get
Build
murdered.
your collection week by week, and very soon you'll have a salad that really gets the lunchroom talking. From tomatoes and oils to leafy greens and lovely grains.
Alright, mate, I've left you a voicemail. I thought you'd end up here. Most people come into the archive room when they're done with a broadcast. That way you can see what you did and how it looked to the public. As you can see, there's 3 sections to the archive. Broadcasts, that's what you've put out. Rushes, which is all the stuff that was on all the screens. And adverts, which is any advert that you've chosen to show. So let's have a look at the broadcasts. Okay, on the left you can see all the broadcasts that you've done also get to hear from the main menu if you don't actually want to do a broadcast, you just want to see some of your past work. Select any of those and click Load Tape. Why not watch what you just did? When you're done, hit back.
Well, in a few moments, we'll be going live to tonight's National Nightly News. But before that, let's take a look at what's coming up later on tonight on Channel 1. At 7 o'clock, it's the semi-final of the quotation game, and it's a nail-biting quiz tonight as a team of nuclear physicists take on 4 old ladies from East Grinching. That's followed at 8 p.m. by award-winning documentary series The Shape of Now, which tonight looks at the history of the knee-length sock and its importance during the Great Blackouts of 1871. Not one to miss. At 9 p.m, sit back and relax with multiple award-winning movie The Freedom of Being Colin, taking us all the way up to 11:15, where, as usual, Dr. Adrian Atkinson Blimey will be grilling his guests in Incisors, and tonight sees a return for leading economist Katie Brightman. Finally, at midnight, it's the National Weather Report, before we say good night until tomorrow. But now, it's time to join Jeremy Donaldson for the National Nightly News.
Stories tonight. Moving on up, the election win that experts said just couldn't happen. Hopeful or hostile? Controversy as global mega corporation Remington's Fist buys Honest Andy's Totally Independent and corners the flowered market. Top chat. Sports fans everywhere celebrate as popular footballer Johnny Hamsleeves wins Sports Personality of the Year. And a spoonful of sugar. Chatting with movie star Lawrence Blunderclatch about his new movie, The Medicated. And, of course, we'll be going live to Advance headquarters to hear what the leaders of this fledgling party have to say on their historic victory. That's all coming up on tonight's National Nightly News. But first, the votes are in and it's a decisive win for Advance. The landslide victory, with an astonishing 81% of the popular vote, is the biggest election win in living memory. Advance appealed to voters up and down the country with their bold promises of permanent change, but critics have accused them of a severe lack of actual policies and of being deliberately vague. The opposition parties have all conceded defeat to Advance's overwhelming mandate, but have yet to appear publicly. However, former Home Secretary Geoffrey Jeffries has issued a statement in which he comments that we have all been seduced by the shiny wrapping paper, but have yet to see the contents of the box. Sounds like sour grapes to me, Jeff. After the break, Megan Wolfe will be speaking to a man whose grapes certainly aren't sour, the international heartthrob and inexplicable box office sensation that is Lawrence Blunderclatch. And later in the programme, we'll be going live to Advance HQ to hear the co-leader's acceptance speech. That's all coming up after the break.
1 minute back, everybody.
Welcome to Crazy Neil's crazy pre-Christmas sofa and chair deals. It's a steal with Crazy Neil. We don't care if you've been naughty or nice. We got green sofas, red sofas, brown cushions, pink cushions. You've got a grey sofa. We've got a great sofa in a grey.
Welcome back to the National Nightly News. Later we'll be hearing from shock election winners Advance, but first our very own culture reporter Megan Wolfe is here with a star of both stage and screen. Megan?
Thank you, Jeremy. Megan Wolfe, culture correspondent. And today I have a guest who starred in everything from Shakespeare to the Shotbot films. I'm very excited to be joined today by none other than Lawrence Blunderclatch. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my dear. I do hope you believe me when I tell you that being with you here today is among the greatest joys of my life.
May I say, having you here with us is among ours.
Bless you.
So you've just finished filming your latest movie, which is called The Medicated.
The Medicated, yes.
Wow, what was that like?
Well, as Peter at the Wrap, that's Peter Jensen, the director. Do you know him? He's a wonderful chap, he really is. I've worked with him on several movies, all terribly successful. I said to Peter, what a wild ride this has been. And do you know what, Megan? I really meant that.
Wow, that is fantastic. And am I right in saying that the character you play in this movie is quite an academic one?
Absolutely right. A scientist.
Was that a challenge at all?
What exactly are you implying? But seriously, yes, you're right. It was a complete departure from my last starring role when I played Sergeant Brock Rockman in Bullet Man. You'll remember that that was the true story of one soldier's fight for a love that surpasses all others. A love, of course, for freedom. I think it's grossed over $1 billion, but honestly, who's counting?
It's a role that saw you scoop 2 Best Actor awards, if I remember correctly.
It's so sweet of you to mention it, but I really am not in it for the awards, although those 3 little statues do take pride of place on my mantelpiece.
With all the others, I'm sure. So, if you're not doing it for the awards, what is it then that drives you?
Oh, that is a beautiful question, Megan, and not easy to answer. Like you, I'm afraid. Cut me, and I will bleed. And often, that's how it feels, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Bleeding, giving, suffering for one's audience. I suppose in the end, I do it for the difference it makes. I do it for the people that I inspire, the little people. But most of all, I think I do it for the positive change that I can bring about in the world.
And today, of course, we're in for some real change, it looks like, in the coming few months. What do you make of this historic election result?
Oh, well. Well, now you're asking. Historic election result. Indeed, historic is the word. Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. But I think I've always been quite clear that when it comes to politics, one should always strive to not fuck things up.
Yes, well...
Sorry, I said fuck.
No.
I'm really...
Well,
sorry.
Lawrence, I believe you brought in a clip from The Medicated, which opens next week around the country. Lawrence, do tell us what's going on here.
I'd be delighted. This is a really pivotal scene where my character, Dr. Lance Hemlock, is faced with a decision that could affect humanity's very survival.
Wow, exciting stuff. Let's take a look.
And we're out.
Rob, get in the car. We're out of here.
Mr. Blundercatch.
No! I'm shutting this down. What kind of operation are you people running?
Mr. Blundercatch, I understand you're upset, but we can...
Upset? You don't know the half of it.
It's not your fault.
You think I don't know that?
No, Lance, we mustn't. Think of Carol.
That's Dr. Lance to you, Miss Flanagan.
Did it for you, baby. All for you.
Dr. Hemlock.
I'm gonna change the world, do you remember? If only I listened to you.
Dr. Hemlock.
You told me, but I didn't listen.
Doctor.
I'm drowning, Lance, you said.
You need to see this.
No, it's all too late.
Look at this!
Got it!
The virus. The sterility. This formula, this is the key.
We could stop it all.
Yes, we could stop it all.
We have to ask ourselves if we should.
Hi, I'm world-class sporting legend Johnny Hamsleeves. I'm not fat, but you are. Don't worry, ladies.
Welcome back, and I'm told we can now go live to Advance headquarters where the two leaders, Peter Clement and Julia Salisbury, are about to make their acceptance address.
Shall I start?
Go for it, Pet.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and, well, where do I start? What a day.
They said we couldn't do it.
They certainly did.
They used every dirty, low-down, lying, southern bastard trick against us, but you, the people, you saw right through their
I'm sorry about the language there.
Sorry about that. I've had a couple of celebratory pints. It makes me coarser than
Memorably put. But to be honest, who can blame Peter for celebrating? Throughout the campaign, you've heard us say that Advance are not a political party. A party's what you have when things are going well. When the country is suffering, you don't need a party. You need a team. A team that can change things. But today is day one of a new future. A better, fairer future. So perhaps we should all be celebrating.
Except for the rich. For them, the party's over. They shouldn't be celebrating. They should be putting their on and opening their dusty checkbooks.
Again, colourfully put, but not inaccurate. Before we came out here to address the nation, we used our executive powers to pass the Assets and Wealth Act. Working with the tax office, we have produced a definitive list of every person in the country with wealth into the millions.
You know the sort of, probably you rather you don't. Because the likes of you and me are not welcome in their gated communities.
Tomorrow, we will be introducing a sweeping reform of the tax system in this country. No more hiding wealth offshore, no more trust funds or creative accounting. A simpler, fairer, unavoidable set of tax laws.
So, all public school snobs have got nowhere to hide. And earlier today, we revoked your passports. You want them back? You want to leave like you threatened before the election? That's fine. But first, you're going to pay up. You're going to pay back.
Advance are going to turn this country from a nation of warring individuals into a team. To properly fund health and education. To raise the living standards of us all.
The pundits said we'd have to raise billions. But you'll see when we've reclaimed what's ours, that's absolute ferret shit. So to you posh
people who pay you a pittance to serve them drinks in their private clubs, the people whose children you raise.
So they've got time to get even richer.
Advance have this to say to you.
It ends today.
We are coming for your sports cars and your mansions and your vineyards.
It ends today.
We will put the wealth of this country back where it should have always been, in the hands of the people who created it.
It ends today.
Yes, it ends today. And tomorrow, we'll start making it fair again, just like we promised we would.
And until then, ladies and gents, I suggest we all get...
I can't argue with that. Thank you for your time.
Well, an interesting acceptance speech there from the leaders of Advance. And our apologies for the fruity language. Hopefully we got that bleeped out for you in time. If not, someone's going to be in trouble. So, as the country braces itself for new government, that's all from us this evening at the National Nightly News. We'll be back tomorrow with full coverage of the first day under Advance. I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Have a peaceful night.
Celebrate the classic age of salad with this
Right, click on rushes and let's have a look at those. Okay, these 4 screens, they're exactly the same as the 4 screens that feed you the studio signal when you're doing the actual news. Of course, the difference here is you can mute any screen you like or any combination of screens, and you can have a listen to what was going on behind the scenes. Just select any segment, that's any bit between ad breaks over on the left, and hit play. When you're done checking out the backstage secrets, hit back.
Apparently he's been drinking since lunchtime.
Christ, he's a liability in the best of times.
I know. God help whoever has to bleep this. 10 seconds, everybody!
I mean, a lawyer and a TV personality running the country. Seriously?
We've had worse. 5, 4, 3...
Welcome back. And I'm told we can now go live to Advance headquarters, where the 2 leaders, Peter Clement and Julia Salisbury, are about to make their acceptance address.
Shall I start?
Go for it, Pat!
Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and, well, where do I start? What a day!
They said we couldn't do it.
They certainly did.
They used every dirty, low-down, lying, southern bastard trick they had against us, but you, the people, you saw right through their shite.
I'm sorry about the language there.
Sorry about that. I've had a couple of celebratory pints. Makes me coarser than the granny's fanny.
Memorably put.
Prawn and mayonnaise?
You know seafood makes me come out. You offer me prawns every day.
10 seconds, everybody! That's how I show love.
Good evening, I'm Jeremy Donaldson. Our main stories tonight. Moving on up,